Over the last few sessions, we've looked at a couple of the really big themes of Christianity. We've seen that the Bible says that God exists, that He created everything that we can see, and then some. And then we looked at humanity, and we learnt that we've been made in the image of the Creator God, that we're special, that we know right from wrong, and that as the human race, we've been entrusted with the task of being God's managers. If only it stopped there, but it didn't. Come with me.
I don't really know what to say because this place is so wrong on so many levels. It just beggars imagination. In this place, two ideologies clashed, and that, frankly, is just polite political speak for one group trying to overtake another using power and death and manipulation and killing, basically, as their weapon. We're talking about Pol Pot, a man who was the leader of the Khmer Rouge, trying to take over the country of Cambodia, which he successfully did. And the way he did it was to take a cluster of people and endeavour to annihilate them. It's just extermination, killing. And we're standing here in the middle of one of many thousands of what are known as killing fields.
And just over here, this is just a tiny remnant of what happened. Estimates range for the killings from 1.5 to 3 million.
There's nothing right about this. That a human life, that a human is reduced to a piece, an object in a case like this for the sake of power.
So all the exorcist grave I just mentioned is around here. But each grave was very deep, at least 3.5 meters. You know, Khmer Rouge came to power after the 5 years war. In 1970 to 1975, during the 5 years that we were living in fear, our people die every day. So when we know the war finished, we all feel so happy. And they come to welcome Khmer Rouge. They tell the people that, dear people, now the war finished, and we need all of you to work for us because we are going to form the new government. But they never tell them the truth. When they were taken, they never been returned. Their family, their husband, their wife, their children are not allowed to cry, to ask for them, or to show that they are sad, or they're gonna be arrested and killed also. Don't mean we had no emotion. We are like the statue, we are like the robot, we are like that piece of wood. We are not allowed to have any emotion, any feeling. When they were taken, if they are lucky enough, they were taken straight away to the killing field. But if not, they were taken to the prison first, where they were detained and tortured before they were taken to kill. And this is a tree that they used to hang the loudspeaker, and they play the loud music like what you hear now.
Yes.
When they kill the people, because they didn't use gun to kill them. They use the bamboo just hit their head from behind. After they hit their head one stick, they push them into the grave and bury them alive. And so the people that were pushed into the grave may screaming or mourning because of pain. So to keep their voice down, they had to play the music when they kill them.
It's difficult to even comprehend this, but imagine having to dig deep holes in which to put people, and then look at that hole, and then press on and dig another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, more around behind here, all these holes, deep and filled with bones. A Western journalist came up with this name, Killing Fields. And it's one of those poetically tragic pieces of genius where you take what's wrong here is that a field, a thing that should be producing food and nourishing the people that live on it, providing nurture for them, is taken to just be a place where you can dig a hole and put them in with no value of life at all. You know, you look at this and you think, how can this happen? How can this be? And yet, you know what? This has been going on and continues to go on all around our planet.
And we have to ask, why? Why, after thousands of years of trying to get our act together, is there still so much inhumanity in the world? One nation invades another and commits unspeakable war crimes. Modern-day slavery outstrips even the slavery of history. Sex trafficking is more widespread and profitable than ever. Murders in our cities are at an all-time high. Family violence has reached epidemic levels. Cheating is everywhere, in our schools, universities, and on our taxes. These days, even grocery stores are hiring security guards. So many people run red lights, they've had to install cameras to catch the culprits. Why is that? What is it about the human condition that can make us so good one day and so terrible the next? What's wrong with the world? I think the answer to that question can be found in a story told about British writer G.K. Chesterton. The Times of London supposedly commissioned essays from some of the greatest thinkers of the day. The topic, What's Wrong with the World? Chesterton's essay was short and got right to the point. Dear Sirs, I am, sincerely, G.K. Chesterton.
You know what? I think he nailed it. We're so quick to point out the sin in other people and ignore it in ourselves. Jesus talked about that, how easy we find it to point out the speck, tiny speck in somebody else's eye, while we ignore the great big log sticking out of our own. And if we're completely honest with ourselves when nobody else is around, we know we're not who we pretend to be. We stretch the truth from time to time. We take advantage of other people. We engage in behaviours that are destructive and addictive. And we continue to say and do things that we know we shouldn't. The truth is, we all have this inclination towards wrong. We're like a bowling ball in lawn bowls. We have a clear bias that causes us to veer off in the wrong direction. We just can't help ourselves. And that's why the world's a mess, because it's a reflection of the people in it. And that includes you and me, if we're perfectly honest. Made in the image of God with the capability of doing so much good, but with this destructive bias towards doing wrong. Imagine if sin was a colour, let's say blue, and someone pricked us with a pin. We'd all bleed some shade of blue, some navy blue, royal blue, baby blue, whatever the shade, we'd all be blue.
Fact is, we're all tainted with sin.
Russia's defence ministry says it is continuing to...
Sadly, every day, our newspapers and our television tell us not what we've done well, but what we've done badly.
And Ukraine has launched a new...
And as we put our heads on the pillows at night and evaluate the day, are there things we've done well? Yeah, of course there are. Are there other things that we've done not so well? Have we acted selfishly? Have we spun things a bit to make ourselves look better?
And if we're honest with ourselves, yeah, we have. We've stretched the truth sometimes, all kinds of stuff. The Bible calls this wrong that we do evil. It's not a very fancy word, I'll admit, but it does kind of get the idea across. And if we look deep inside ourselves, we'd all have to agree that we've got this inclination, this kind of magnetism that pulls us towards doing things that we know just aren't right. Well, that raises a whole pile of other questions, by the way. For instance, where did evil come from? The origin of evil, of sin, and how it took up residence in the human heart is both fascinating and chilling. When the Bible explains the origins of sin, the beginning of evil, it introduces us to Satan, someone very real, very evil, and very powerful. It tells us that he was not always bad, he was one of the greatest angels, in fact, God's right-hand man. But as in Bruegel's painting, Satan, filled with pride, set himself up against God and tried to take his place and become the ruler of everything God had made. This rebellion by Satan was the very first act of evil in the universe. So God didn't create evil, he didn't make it, he merely permitted it. How did sin enter the human race? How did evil become our problem?
We're here in the incredible Daintree rainforest in the north of Queensland in Australia. It's claimed to be one of the oldest rainforests in the world, and it's a World Heritage Site, and deservedly so. It's just beautiful. And I imagine this is what the Garden of Eden might have been like. Beautiful, lush, bountiful, bursting with reproductive energy. Everything perfect, just as it should be. Adam and Eve in the garden, enjoying each other, and having an unobstructed and innocent relationship with their Creator, with God. No jealousy, no selfishness, no anger, no fear, no perversion, no sin. Imagine that. All of this, of course, was far too much for Satan. God had already barred him from taking the throne of the universe, and now he was after the next best thing, control of planet Earth. How would he do that? Well, Satan's first ploy was to seduce, corrupt, control the human race. If he could shift the allegiance of Adam and Eve from God to himself. To do that, if he could get them to disobey God, to stop trusting God, he'd be well on the way to taking control of this planet. In the middle of the garden there was one special tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This tree was a living symbol of God's authority, a symbol of God's prerogative to determine what is good and what is evil. And if Adam and Eve chose to eat fruit from this forbidden tree, the one thing that God had told them not to do, then they would be defying his authority, kind of saying, let me call the shots myself. And here enters Satan's cunning ploy. If he could get them to cross that line, to take fruit from that forbidden tree, then his plan to control the planet would be well underway. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, the Bible tells the story like this. Satan, dressed up as a serpent, is talking to the woman. He says, did God really say that you must not eat from any tree in the garden? And you see right there, that's where it begins. Satan challenging God's word. Satan saying in effect to the woman, are you going to trust me or are you going to trust God? And he's been at that, challenging God's authority ever since. And that's why the Bible calls him the father of lies, and for very, very good reason.
If If ever Satan was to be successful and get Adam and Eve to cross the line and take from the forbidden tree, he'd have to get them to believe two big lies. If he could do that, then the job would be done. Coup over. Rebellion successful. So here we go. His first big lie in Genesis 3:4, "You will not die," was a whopper. Satan was saying, sin's not bad, it has no consequences, you won't die, do what you like. And the second lie was also sensational. Satan was hinting, suggesting subtly and powerfully, God's not good, he's mean, he's miserable, he's keeping things from you, he's trying to hold you down. Another whopper. So there it is, plain and simple, two big lies. If Satan could get Adam and Eve to believe that God was not good, that sin wasn't bad, they'd cross the line and take from the tree and disconnect themselves from God. The deal would be done.
And it worked. They swallowed the two big lies. They didn't need to, but they did. And because they did, they introduced evil into the world, and it became our problem. And the rest, as they say, history.
The effects were catastrophic. The open relationship with God was lost. Now they were hiding, ashamed, separated. A broken relationship with God, the maker of everything. They also lost something between themselves. Their relationship was broken too. They started blaming each other, pointing the finger. And you know, none of this had ever happened before.
And this is huge. Into this pristine and perfect setting came things never before seen or thought of. Guilt, fear, doubt, envy, greed, selfishness, broken relationships with each other, with the planet, with the Creator. And all the rest, the killing, the lying, the stealing, the gossiping, all of these spring from that first basic separation from God. And after this, things began to steadily unravel.
The Bible tells of the awful tragedy. We don't even get past the first family, jealousy, anger, hatred, until in a vengeful fit, Cain murders his brother Abel. Instead of bringing little kings into the world who would nurture and develop the planet and bring it to its full potential, Adam and Eve instead produced little sinners. In the case of Cain, a little murderer.
Now everything was out of balance. The earthly paradise was gone too. The planet itself was cursed and began to groan. Disaster, disease, storms. And it became bittersweet. Humans had to look out for themselves, to be careful. And new words were needed. Frustration, pain, suffering, toil. And instead of being in charge of the planet, humans were now, at times, at its mercy. Sadly, Satan's ploy and Adam and Eve's acceptance of it not only fractured the relationship with God, with the planet, and with each other, but it also came with another cost. From now on, humans would be mortal.
Once they could have lived forever in exquisite relationship with God for all eternity. But now they would die. Their bodies would slowly disintegrate, get old and frail, and eventually die. Satan had promised they wouldn't die, but of course he had. He'd lied. It's what he does. And millions, no, billions of graves across the planet are proof that he's a liar. Someone who'd come to kill and destroy them, and their offspring, us.
Mercifully, this tragic story takes a turn for the better. God is too good, too kind, too gracious to let it end this way. And before he throws Adam and Eve out of the garden, he makes an outrageous, extraordinary promise. Let me read it to you. It's in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, the same chapter actually. It says this, "I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel."
What God is saying here is that evil will be destroyed completely. One day someone will come to clean up the mess. He's not mentioning any names, he's only giving clues. But there's plenty here to grab our attention. We're told it will be a human being, a male, just one person. The text speaks of a conflict, a cataclysmic conflict in which Satan's head will be crushed and the other person will be injured. What's really clear is that evil, with all its pain and suffering and misery, will be gone forever. Wouldn't that be simply stunning? No more sin in our hearts, no more pain, no more tears, and as a result a world restored, pristine, perfect. Just like it was in the Garden of Eden where we walked with God and with each other.
We've seen in this episode that God's not the author of evil. He merely allowed Satan to make his rebellious choice. But Satan promotes evil. He's in the sin business. And then evil became our problem when Adam and Eve sinned. And it has contaminated us, all of us. It's like it runs through our veins. Not that we're all guilty of the same sins, but it's a problem deep within each one of us. Thankfully, God's promised that evil will be destroyed completely. One day, someone will come and fix the problem forever. We'll learn about that in a couple of episodes, but first, something confusing happened. I wonder what that was.